Yo, what's up guys? This is my Ret Paladin Classic WoW PvE guide. Let's get right into the Prebis. Before I say anything else, this is my Prebis list. There are many other Prebis lists. This may match a couple of them. But these are what I find is the easiest pieces to get. I do not have all of them yet, so I will give you some recommended pieces, some that are kind of hard to get, some that are expensive, and some replacements and whatnot. So let's start with the Devil Saw set. Devil Saw set is a crafted set from level workers. Devil Saw level is quite contested, so it may be quite expensive. As it says right there, it's 95 gold for that, 194 for that. So a set can come up to 300 gold if you get them crafted. Obviously, you have to pay the fee as well. So I got a guild member to craft these for me, so I got it at a smaller price. But you may not have that, so you might be paying full price. So, but I would definitely recommend getting them, as they are 2% crit and 2% hit. They are better than Devil Saw if you are extremely lucky. But being realistic, Devil Saw is the best. Most people will be using Devil Saw. Notice they are leather, and you do wear plates. Most of your Preebis is leather because that is where most of the hit and crit items are. So, what you could use in these places is the Cloud Keeper leg plates. They're a bind on equip epic item that drops in the world. They're really rare, and they probably go for about 1,000 gold in the auction house. So if you've got the money, buy them. And if you are lucky enough to have them drop, use them. Because you'll be using these until Blackwing Layer Phase 3. For the hands, Flame Guard Gauntlets from Molten Core is your best in slot, so you want to be looking for that. That is for PvP and PvE. You want Flame Guard Gauntlets. Those are an absolute must. So I recommend trying to get those. They are quite low drop chance though of a couple of bosses. Your belt is Omok's Girth Restrainer. Notice it's plate. It's got 15 strength, 9 stamina, really good stats. It's a quest item in UBRS, so it's quite an easy one to get. Hopefully you've not done this quest and you've picked this item over anything else and you haven't sold it. The 1% crit is what you're really looking for. Talking about Devil Saw, so we'll go on to the boots. I have Fleetfoot Greaves, excuse me, but I would rather Bloodmail boots. Reason being, Bloodmail boots, drops and scroll amounts by the way. Bloodmail boots, 1% hit. Now, I actually don't need that hit, so I've not been chasing these up, but the stats on it are also really good. So I recommend Bloodmail boots if you need that hit. For rings, I would use Magni's Will, as it gives you 1% crit and 6 strength. 7 stamina is also nice. Magni's Will is a quest item after saving the princess in Blackrock Depths, so it's pretty easy again to get. Blackstone Ring, if you're playing Ret Paladin and you're using the same build as me, which I'll get into later, you don't actually need Blackstone Ring. Yes, it's a good ring and I'm using it now, but that's because I do not have Pain Weaver. Pain Weaver drops off General Drakenstaff in Upper Blackrock Spire. It's quite a low drop chance. I've seen it drop a couple of times, but all my guildmates won the rolls. 7 stamina, 1% crit, 16 attack power. That's best in slot until Phase 3 as well. So you want to get the Pain Weaver if you can, so spam those UBRS runs to get that Pain Weaver. That's what I've been doing recently. So those are your rings. As you can see, everything so far, most has crit strike because you need the crit chance. You really need the crit chance. Now, Trinkets, Black Hand's Breath, again, is another UBRS quest, another really easy one to get. Improves your chance to get a critical strike by 2%. Great trinket, you'll be using this for a long while. Secondly is Hand of Justice, again, another really good trinket. 2% chance on melee hit to gain an extra attack. This is insane. Like, if you have a really good weapon and you hit someone with and you get a hodge proc, you can get a Seal of Command proc off it. It's absolutely insane. I've seen like back-to-back procs. So, for instance, auto attack, Seal of Command procs the hodge procs Seal of Command. I get like 4k damage off. It's insane. Absolutely insane, especially for all crits. I'm not going to talk about the weapon at the moment. I'm going to go all the way up and then come back down to the weapon. There's a lot of choices for that. Battle Ball Arm Braces drops off Rend in UBRS. So a lot of your gear drops in UBRS. You'll be doing a lot of UBRS runs. Now, the braces are great, but they have no stats on them. It's just 1% hit, 1% crit, which is really good until you break your hit cap. You probably want to be looking at Van Braces of the Sadist, dropping Scholomance, which I should probably start doing, but I haven't even run Scholomance yet, so that's out of the picture. Battleborn Braces or Braces of the Sadist. You want Van salads. So chest piece. I have Spider Fang Carapace. It's not in the biz list, by the way. You want to get Savage Gladiator Chain, which is male, 2% crit. Which is your best in slot again until phase 3. It's a low drop chance off the arena in Blackrock Depths. I've been really unlucky with this. I've run it over 100 times. I still haven't got it. Another piece you can get is Breastplate of Bloodthirst. As you can see, I have the quest for that. I have most of the items apart from the Pristine Hide of the Beast, which is skinned from the Beast in Upper Blackrock Spire if you have the knife that drops from it. It's like a very low drop chance when you skin it. And the hide probably goes for like 400 gold in the auction house. So if you got the money, buy it. If not, unlucky, mate. So yeah, Breastplate of the Bloodthirst or the Savage Gladiator Chain vest is what you're looking for there. And I have neither of those at the moment. Back, you want Cape of the Black Baron or Stone Skin Gargoyle Cape. Cape of the Black Baron drops from Baron Rivendare in Stratholme Undead. It's best in slot cape for all melee DPS. I've seen it drop once or twice, haven't won it unfortunately. So I'm going with the Black Veil cape that drops in Blackrock Depths. Shoulders, again, it's leather. It improves your chance to hit by 2% and the attack power by 24. Really good shoulders. Everybody wants these. They drop from the first boss in Upper Blackrock Spire. Again, Upper Blackrock Spire. That dungeon has most of your gear in it. You can probably get like fully geared of a couple of runs of UBRS. It's great. Yeah, recommend doing UBRS a ton. Yeah, True Strike shoulders. Again, the leather, like I said. So there's not a lot of armor on there. You're very squishy. You won't be able to off tank in this gear. Bearing in mind, you probably won't be off tanking at all, really. Mark of Forging. It's your best in slot neck. You can get Imperial Jewel, but this one has better stats on it. So, and it's easier to get actually. So you could have Imperial Jewel from Emperor Thracian in Blackrock Depths, but the Mark of Forging is it's just better, and it's a pain in the ass to get, but it's worth it. It is a quest chain given by Tyrion Forging in Eastern Playlands. You do a couple of quests for him. You go run Stratholme and Stratholme Living, sorry, for him, and then you have to do a quest chain. Sorry, a escort quest with his son in Hearthglen. Once you've done that, pain in the ass quest, by the way, improves your chance to get a critical strike by 1%. Your attack power by 26. It's a great neck. It's a great neck. Your next. Your best in slot neck forever in Classic is it's the Onyxia Tooth Pendant, and you get it from the quest from Handing at the Head of Onyxia, which I was lucky enough to get that. I just need to wait to pop the head for Onyxia. That will be for me next week. And last of all, in the head slot, I have Lionheart Helmet. Now, a lot of you won't have Lionheart Helmet. There's one person on my server with the recipe. He's charging 150 gold for crafting. Plus, you have to give them the mats, and the mats cost you about 700 gold. And now, I did not buy these mats. I farmed them myself. I am a miner. I got all of the arcane crystals to make the Arcanite bars. I got them transmuted, about 10 gold a piece to get transmute. AT4M, you kind of get that when you're farming for the arcane crystals. This took me a couple of days, but it's definitely worth it. Lionheart, I want to say it now, is not good in PvP. It's just PvE, so if you want it for both, then cool, but I would not use that in PvP. 2% crit, 2% hit. That's absolutely amazing. 18 strength as well. And it's plate. That's a really good reason to get it. It's plate. But, like I said, it's not really realistic for all of you. So there's two other choices you can take. And that's Eye of Rend, which is 2% crit leather off Rend again. So you can get a lot of items off Rend. The better one, in my opinion, is Mask of the Unforgiven, that drops off the Unforgiven, which is one of the first bosses in Stratholme, either way you go. And that's 1% crit, 2% hit. And I think it's a bit of attack power on it. No, it's not, just stamina. So, yeah, that helmet's really good to get. But obviously I replaced mine with Lionheart, which is just 1% more hit, and instead of stamina you get 18 strength. So it's definitely worth it if you have the money. But if you don't have the money, if you don't have like 900 gold, then don't do it. Or if you've got time to farm it and you've got mining, go farm it. It's definitely worth it. Let's talk about weapons. I know everyone wants to hear about weapons. I actually have the Obsidian Edge Blade. I was lucky enough to get that at Molten Core. So I actually just completely skipped my Prebis for blades. But there are a lot of Prebis you can be using. Now, off the top of my head, you've got the Dreadforge Retaliator from last boss in Blackrock Depths. I think that's about 20% drop chance. It's the Poor Man's Arcanite Reaper. It's an axe. Let me get the stats up for you real quick. I don't know them off the top of my head. So it drops off Blackrock Depths, last boss, Dreadforge Retaliator. 1% chance to parry, 1% chance to crit, 30 attack power. Now, this item is great, but like I said, it's the Poor Man's Arcanite Reaper. Now, let me tell you about Arcanite Reaper. Everybody wants Arcanite Reaper. It's great for PvP, it's great for PvE. Arcanite Reaper, stats are even better, 13 stamina plus 62 attack power. It's a slower weapon speed, which you want. I'll get into that a bit later on the guide. Now, the problem with it is 20 Arcanite bars. Now, that's a lot of bars. That's if you're doing it yourself on one alchemist, that's 40 days. That's insane. If you're going to buy an auction house, it's going to cost you like 800 gold minimum. It's really expensive, guys. I wouldn't recommend going for the Arcanite Reaper, to be honest, unless you're like trying to min-max really hard. There are a couple of other items you can get. So like I said, another one from Rend in UBRS is the Black Hand's Doomsaw. It's a polearm, a chance to hit to win the target for a lot of damage. This item's actually really good. The only problem is 8% chance of Rend. This is on par with your Dreadforge Retaliator, I would say. You can get the Arcanite Champion that drops off Avalcrack. It's the recipe. Arcanite Champion. You have to be a master swordsman to craft it though. So again, it's probably going to go for this a little bit less than the Arcanite Reaper, but not that much less. It's still like really expensive. But you know, it can increase your strength by 120 for 30 seconds. That's pretty good. Put a Crusader on that like I have with mine. That's another 100, so that's 200 strength. That's like 400 AP. It's insane. I think that might be it for weapons. Oh no, you got the Blackrock Slicer that drops in LBRS off of a rare mob. Spirestone Battlelord. Blackrock Slicer, really cool looking axe. The reason why it's good is because it's the slowest swing speed in the game with a 4-second swing timer, which is amazing for Ret Paladin. So I'll tell you why a bit later. The only problem is with this weapon is the chance on hit. It wounds the target for 50 to 150 damage. And an additional 6 damage every 1 second for 25 seconds. Now, that's bad. The reason why that's bad is because it puts a debuff on bosses, and you can only have 16 debuffs on a boss, or is it 15? 15 or 16 debuffs on a boss. So, you're basically taking up a debuff for 6 damage every second for 25 seconds. That's not worth it. And you're wasting a debuff slot. So that's why you probably shouldn't be using this in raids, but in dungeons, this weapon's great. That's it for Preebis. If I've missed anything, I don't think I have. Just double check. No, okay, so this is my Preebis. You're really squishy. If you look at my stats, I have 2,596 armor, 238 strength. I'm unbuffed right now, as you can see. I'm unbuffed. 94 agility and 160 stamina, 87 spirit, intellect, and 74 spirit. Now I have 800 attack power. If I buff myself, I have 986. Now, let's get on to your build that you'll be using in PvE, in raids, and dungeons. Now, it's quite a simple build. Now, bearing in mind, if I count from my Preebis before we start, how much crit chance I have and how much hit chance I have. Now, I've got 2% hit from Devil Saw. I've got 3% if I add the Blackstone Ring, 4%, 6%, 8%. Now you need 9% hit in PvE. It's 6% in PvP, 9% in PvP for Ret Paladins. So you need 9%, and I have 8% from my gear right now. So you would have to put points into precision. And precision gives you 3% hit if you get 3 points. So right now I'm sitting on 11% hit. So I don't actually need 3 points in there, but I'm not going to spend so much gold to take the points out and put them somewhere else. If you did want to do that, I'd recommend putting them in Holy and getting 2 points in Improved Land Hands. Improved Land Hands is amazing. I'll get to this later. I'll read through it in a second. I'm going to start with the Retribution tree. As the tree will be going all the way down. I have 32 points in Retribution, and I will tell you why I put my points in and where I put my points in. So let's start with the Improved Blessing of Might. In raids, you'll always be blessing Might. You won't be blessing anything else. So 20% on Might is great. 20% is, it's attack power. It's essentially strength. So the more you have, the more damage you're going to do. So 20% increase in your buff. That's great. 4 points in Benediction. Benediction reduces the mana cost of your Judgment and your seals by 12%. You could put 5 points and not have rep, but I prefer rep. Yeah, you could have 5 here, but I have 4. 2 points in Improved Judgment for the cooldown reduction of Judgment. This increases your DPS because you can judge more often. Improved Seal of Crusader. This, I think I take this just for the fact that you need the points to get Vengeance. But also, it's good on bosses that go spell immune, because you have higher DPS with Crusader if they're spell immune, because Seal of Crusader is only white hits, so you'll have more DPS if you're not counting Seal of Command and Seal of Righteousness holy damage. Your juicy ones. Pursuit of Justice. The reason you take Pursuit of Justice is so that you can take a damage enchant like 8 agility on your boots instead of minus speed. Now, I don't believe they stack, so Pursuit of Justice is great. 8% movement speed indoors and on mounts. It's absolutely great. It gives you the edge in PvP as well. You can catch up. And at the time that you spend, if you get knocked back from the boss and you have to run back, you can't charge. So you have downtime. This helps ease that downtime as you run faster than everybody else. And it's very noticeable as well. Seal of Command. This is your main seal, so you need to get this as soon as possible. So I recommend getting this level 20 if you're still leveling. But yeah, PvE, this is your main seal. It's your bread and butter DPS. So obviously you need to get that. 5 points in Conviction. That's 5% crit. So I'll add that on when I do see how much crit I've got on in my Prebis. 2-handed weapon specialization. Pretty self-explanatory. Pretty mandatory as well. Increase the damage you do with 2-handed melee weapons by 6%. So that's pretty good. Then you've got Sanctity Aura, which is your main aura you'll be using in PvE. Unless you're on certain fights in raids, then you'll probably be using Fire Resistance Aura unless you're a douchebag. So this increases your damage done pretty much by 10%. No one else's. Unless you have a Smite Priest, which you probably don't. This is your damage done, no one else's. So 10%, it really does make a difference. Vengeance. So Vengeance gives you 15% bonus to physical and holy damage you deal for 8 seconds after dealing a critical strike from a weapon, swing, spell, or ability. What this means is every time that you crit, for the next 8 seconds, you do 15% more damage. That's massive, dude. So, for example, if you smack someone, you crit, your Consecration is now going to do like an extra 8 DPS, like on every tick. It's got 8 more damage. So, and if you're in an AoE scenario, that's a lot of damage. Even in Single Tower, you always want to be using Consecration on bosses. So you need to keep Vengeance up all the time, and this is why Vengeance is the sole reason why you stack crit. The more crit chance you have, the more times you crit, meaning the more uptime on Vengeance, because the goal for Ret Paladin is to have 100% uptime on Vengeance. So 5 points in Vengeance, mandatory, as much crit as you can get. That is the goal, and that is why we're in leather gear, guys. Vengeance is all it's about. Now, like I said earlier, Repentance, great for clutch CC. Only problem with it is it resets your swing timer. Now, the reason why that's bad is because, say if you're about to swing on someone, you now can't. Even though your swing timer is saying, oh, it's time to swing. You can't. It resets your timer, and you have to wait for your weapon to reset. It really sucks. It's an instant cast spell. I don't think it should do this, but obviously it's how the game is. But yeah, I would still take it for clutch CC. And it's an interrupt as well, right? When a boss or an ad is casting heal or fear or something, you can interrupt it if you need to. Protection. We've got 5 points in readout. You don't really need. You could put them in Devotion Aura, but you're not going to be using Devotion Aura, so you don't really need to. But I also use it because of I'm using PvP. I'm using this for PvP as well. You don't usually really use a shield, especially if you're wearing leather. But it's just to get the 5 points in, so you can get precision. Like I said, probably for me it's 1 point, but I've got 3. In Holy, 5 points Divine Strength. Now, a lot of people will tell you, don't go Spiritual Focus. Take 5 points in Divine Intellect. I think that's wrong, and I'll tell you why. In Phase 1, you don't have many stats. So, 10% strength right now for me is like 23.8. That's good. That's good. I would say that's fine for 5 points. But 5 points of your talents giving you... how much? Like 8.7? This is not worth it. It's just not worth it. 8.7 intellect for 5 points? That's not worth it. Later on, I'd say like maybe AQ. I would take Divine Intellect, but not at the moment because it's just 8, like I said, 8.7 intellect. That's just not worth it. So I would take Spiritual Focus. Now it gives you a Flash of Light and Holy Light spells 70% chance to not lose casting time when you take damage. So this means you don't get any pushback. Where you have a 70% chance to not get pushback. This is great. So if you need to get a clutch heal, this will really help you. I would say this is going to help me in more scenarios than 8 intellect. I think everyone can agree with me there. Obviously, Consecration, that's the main reason you come down into Holy. Consecration is bread and butter. It costs a fuck ton of mana, but it does so much damage. How much damage? It's 384 over 8 seconds. And that's to everything, right? That's every mob would take 384 damage over 8 seconds. You can have a 100% uptime if you have the mana. As you can see, it costs a lot of mana. And when you're spamming seals and judging and seals and judging and seals and judging, and Consecration comes back off, use it again. You know you're already running a lot of mana. So this is why you keep your mana pots. As I explained in my previous video. Excuse me. So now we've got like the talents out the way in the Prebis. I will now count up my critical strike for you guys. So let's start with the 2% from Devil Saw, 3% from the belt, 4% from the ring, 6% from a trinket, 7% from the braces, and 7%, 8% from the neck, 10% from the head, and then 15% from conviction. Now, a little tip. 20 agility equals 1 crit. So I've got 15%. That's 4 right there. 4.5. So 19% crit unbuffed. So bearing in mind, if I get buffed with Mark of the Wild, you get more agility. If I get wild buffs, I get more crit. Like every wild buff gives like Songflower gives crit, 5% spell, and 5% melee crit. Anix's head will give crit. So buffed, you're looking at like 30% crit. Let's get into what seals and auras you'll be using in dungeons and raids. I'll be primarily talking about Up Blackrock Spire as it's a 10-man dungeon. So you'll most likely be swapping auras in there, whereas the other ones you can kind of just roll through it. So you're going to be using Sanctity Aura all the way through until after Rend. They've got a couple of Flame Tongues in there. They cast Fire Novas that do tons of damage. So you want to be switching into Fire Resistance Aura. On mobs like that, when you see mobs that do a lot of fire damage, you want to switch because that can save you from wiping because they do so much damage. If not, use Sanctity Aura. No one benefits from it but you, but it's 10% damage. It's a lot of damage no one else needs protecting at the time. You can use Sanctity Aura. If not, you're going to be using Fire Resistance for it. I recommend you keybind your auras as well. I know some people don't. Keybind your auras. I know you see me clicking them right now, but I definitely keybind my auras. So Yeah, so you want to be using Sanctity and Fire Resistance. Drakisaf, the last boss of Upper Blackrock Spire, Fire Resistance. He uses a lot of fire spells. You want to be saving your team with Fire Resistance Aura. In raids, you can use Sanctity Aura on trash mobs that aren't fire elementals that deal a lot of fire damage. So this is only really for you. And I don't use it often in raids, only when we're steamrolling some mobs. Excuse me. But I am in the tank group. Now our tank group consists of one warrior main tank, one druid off tank. Reason being he's in the main group is because he gives 3% crit of leader of the pack, which benefits myself and the tanks. We have a hunter that gives attack power. So basically we've built for aggro. Right, we give the tank more damage and more crits, so the tank has more chance to hold aggro. We have a warlock or a priest in the main group, depending on the day. Warlock because they give the improved imp, so the tank has more stamina, or the priest so they can cast AoE healing in the group. Prayer of Mending, I believe it is. Don't quote me on that. But I know that they can only use it on their group, their small group. So you would either want a priest or a warlock in the main group. So that's 5 of myself, which is nice because you could put the Holy Paladin in Group 1, but they don't benefit from 3% crit from the pack, whereas a Ret Paladin does. So it's nice to have a Ret Paladin in Group 1 as they benefit from the 3% crit. That's his only melee crit, by the way. And it's nice for me because I get to do more damage. And if you're a Ret Paladin, I would consider having the same Group 1. It's a very strong Group 1. I'll say that again. It's a warrior main tank, feral off tank if you have a feral. If not, you don't really need to be there. Priest or warlock, and a hunter, and yourself, obviously. So, with that being said, in Molten Core, you'll be using fire resistance on most bosses, especially Baron Geddon and Ragnaros. Now, let me tell you something about Ragnaros. Everyone will be standing in certain places. You know how the boss fight goes on. I assume that you do. Saying this, you have your casters spread out. You have your melee grouped up. And because of how the fight works and your aura is only 30 yards, you have to be standing in between your melee and in between your tanks. So that the tanks with the aura, you have to make sure that your healers are close enough to you because you are now part of a tank group as well. So everyone stands over there, and then you single out the Ret Paladin and you stand by yourself and the boss. Now, because if you don't have fire resistance aura, then there's no point in you being in that group, and you need to give them fire resistance aura. So you'll be using fire resistance aura most of the time. There are a couple of bosses like Lucifercran that you'll be using shadow resistance aura. Now, shadow resistance aura stops him from using curses on you, stops him from using overtimes on your whole raid. So some bosses, like most of the snake bosses, let me get Mount Core up real quick. That's his lair. So Shazra, I think he puts curses, so that's shadow. Luciferon and Gehennis, all of them. You want to be Sulfuron Harbinger, don't believe, and Mage Stone Murder, believe he does anything you need Shadow Resist for, Fire Resist for those. But yeah, Shadow Resist on those bosses because of their mechanics, the curses and shadow damage. You want to give shadow damage to resistance to tanks, so they resist and you resist yourself. So it saves you popping a restorative potion or whatnot. So I would use that. So you're going to be using mostly shadow resistance, fire resistance, and on the low, Sanctity Aura. But if a tank dies and you have Sanctity Aura, it's kind of your fault. So you need to be really careful about it. Although it might not be your fault, it might be the healer's fault, but you play towards it, so take it on the chin. Let's talk about seals. So you have 3 seals, Command Rank 5, Command Rank 1, and Crusader. So what you're going to be using mostly is your Seal of Command, Judgment, Seal of Command. Seal of Command does 100% increased damage to stunned or incapacitated targets. So what this means is rogues are your best friends. So this works in PvP as well. If you Hammer of Justice a mob, and some bosses in dungeons can be stunned, by the way. So you do want to try it and see which bosses can, which bosses can't. So Hammer of Justice a boss, Seal of Command, Judgment. It does, for me, like 800 damage, because it does double damage. Every time, double damage. If you have a rogue, if a cheap shot, make sure you wait for that cheap shot on your judgment, so you get double damage on your judgment. You'll go from like top 3 DPS to bet top DPS in like an up Black Rock Spire if you have a rogue. Like I said, up Black Rock Spire is where I'm going to be talking about the most. So yeah, wait for the rogues to cheap shot. You get double damage on your judgment, and then once you've done that, the next mob you're going to hodge them, and then you're going to judgment them. You're just going to get double damage on most of the mobs with your judgment. So you're just double dipping as much as you can with the Seal of Command. The reason you use Seal of the Crusader is if the boss is spell immune, you do more damage with your white attacks on Seal of Crusader over time than you would with using like Seal of Command, because it's useless on bosses that spell immune, because your command proc is a holy damage ability, which is spell, so it won't do any damage. And your sort of righteousness or all of these, they just won't work because they're all spells. But Crusader, if you don't judge it, just white hit, just slap. That's just pure damage, just white damage, and over time that's going to be more damage than any of the other seals of their spell immune. So you'll either be healing or you're using Seal of Crusader. Another thing, I've been told that seal twisting works in Classic. Now, essentially what this means is you can have Seal of Command up, and then you can hit them when you have say I have a 3.4 swing timer on my weapon. So you have to wait 3.4 seconds to swing again, but if you use Crusader, it will speed it up, and just before the weapon swings, you just swing back into command. This costs a lot of mana, as you can see, so you probably want to be using rank 1. As you can see, rank 1 doesn't cost too much, as it's a third of the mana, so you'll be using rank 1. As I said in my previous video, there is no damage difference in the two seals, it's only the judgment. We're gonna hold DPS mages.
So you can get the raid.
Yeah, make sure I'm being
that's nice.
Start DPS slowly though.
Very slowly. Crit. Come on, baby. Let's get those fucking numbers, boys. Give me that fat fucking numbers, boys!
A little bit slow on the DPS, 1 for like 10-15 seconds.
Ah!
Radia, Paranoxic, slow down your DPS.
Oh, I can't tell the Ret Paladin. Okay, I'll stop. That's really it, guys. Using your bread and butter DPS moves like Seal of Command, Consecration, Judgment. That's really it. It all comes down to gear and consumables. Now, your gear, as if you've got my gear, you should have 33% completely buffed, which is a 1 in 3 chance to crit, which gives you pretty much always, it gives you vengeance uptime all the time, because you have 8 seconds to crit each crit. So 1 in 3 chance on swing or judgment or whatever, you're gonna get it. So you're gonna have maximum damage in your consecration, maximum damage in everything that you do, 15%. And if you get a string of crits like I did in the video, then you're going to be like top DPS. But if you didn't, you're going to be bottom. And that's just how Ret Paladin is, and that's how it always have been. So if you like the video, guys, please feel free to leave a like. If you want to talk about anything in the video, leave a comment below. I will reply. And if you want to catch me streaming raids or PvP, feel free. It's at twitch.tv/Paranoxic. Come hang out with me. I'm always down to answer some questions or figure crafts from Ret Paladin. Anyway, have a nice day, guys. Thanks for watching.